Alright, so it seems like it's been a long time since our last review, but today we've got an awesome one for you. It is Mysterio from XM Studios. Now, for those of you who don't know this character, he is one of the founding members of the Sinister Six, and I'm so happy that XM Studios did this guy because he's one of my absolute favorites. I love his costume, and I just love that the concept of him. He doesn't really have any superpowers of his own, but he's part of the Hollywood movie industry, so he's like an expert on makeup and disguise and stunts, and he can create all these illusions and special effects, so he can make you think he's got these awesome powers. One of the coolest tricks he's got is he's got acid that can shoot out of his gauntlets, and so when Spider-Man shoots his webs, he can dissolve the webs and make it look like they're disappearing in thin air. He's so cool. I'm so glad they did him. And let's not waste any more time. We'll get into the review. XM Studios Mysterio. Okay, so we'll just run through the sculpt on this piece real quick. I think the sculptor did a great job. Now it's done by the same guy that did the Wolverine for XM Studios, Martin Augusta. Hopefully I'm saying that properly. And he did a really nice job. He's very muscular without being, overly jacked and shredded. So he looks like a formidable enemy. So great physique there. I think the smoke looks really good. I think sculpted smoke it's difficult to pull off, and I think they did a nice job here. It's got sort of a cloud-like look to it, so I think that looks really nice. Now the cape. Some people don't like the cape. I don't have a real big problem with it. I think it looks okay. One thing that might have made it a little nicer for some people is if they added a texture to the inside of the cape. If you've ever seen the Bowen Mysterio, which is a really cool statue, it's got sort of that clamshell texture all on the inside of the cape. Now I think that would have looked really, really cool on this, but I can say that not having it there doesn't really take away from it. I think the cape looks pretty good. So overall, the sculpt, I'm really impressed. It's a very imposing piece. It's going to draw a lot of attention when people see it in your collection. I'm really happy with the sculpt on this one. It's Mysterio all the way. Alright, so let's talk about the design of this piece. I really, really love the concept that they used here. So, one of Mysterio's trademarks is, that he kind of appears and disappears like out of thin air, and it's always this big puff of smoke. And so that's what I envision here. You got this swirling smoke, and he's just sort of appeared out of nowhere in this big crowd of people, and they'd all panic and everything. So really cool concept, very, very fitting for the character. I think they did a great job there. I'll talk about the suit. So the suit itself, as XM does with most of their statues, they will add their own sort of twist on it to modernize it a little bit. But there is some really cool throwbacks to the original classic suit design. And first and foremost, you got the big dome on the head, the fishbowl, as some people call it. I love that part of the suit. I thought that was so cool when I was a kid, and watching the cartoons, I just thought, wow, there's nobody else that has quite this kind of design. The gauntlets, the boxy sort of angular look to them, that's straight out of the classic suit. Really, really cool. And the sort of clamshell design there on the gauntlets, they've taken that, or I call it clamshell, or younger people might call it a Wi-Fi symbol. It looks just like the Wi-Fi symbol, but they've taken that and spread it all over the suit. So it's it's on his belt here, on the collar here. It goes around the back of the collar, and on the boots. So that's really cool. They've kind of taken that classic pattern and used it throughout the suit. I really like it. On the green areas of the suit, they've done like a diamond pattern, and the classic suit had more of like a square checkerboard pattern, but still, that's kind of a throwback to the classic suit, I think, and it looks really, really cool. So where they've modernized it, this gold collar around the dome, Normally that's just his cape that comes around and looks and is holding it up there, but you know, they've added this and made him look sort of more regal almost. And they've given him these big boots, gold boots, and as I said, with the same pattern on it. Really, really cool suit design. As I said, overall the concept is awesome for this character, and I really like what they've done with the suit. So great design on this piece. Alright, we'll run through paint really quick. There's not really much that I have to say that you haven't heard me say about an XM statue before. I mean, it's just a super nice, clean paint job. They didn't go too overboard with the shading and highlights, and I think it looks really nice. It's really sharp. Clean lines, clean edges between different colors. The one thing I will say, the cape is maybe a little bit, you know, too much of a bluish purple. It maybe should have been more of like a reddish purple, but I mean, that's getting really nitpicky, right? So I mean, I love the colors that they used. The smoke, in a lot of my photos it's coming through as sort of a pinky color, but it's really more of a purpley gray, and I really like the look of the smoke. It looks kind of like an artificial type of smoke, right? Which it would be for this character, because he creates it himself out of his boots. Yeah, really nice clean paint job. I don't know what else to say. I've come to expect it from XM, and they delivered here. There is a little bit of shading on the cape. I don't know if it's going to come through on the video or the photos, but it's not totally just one flat color. There is some shading there in the folds. So overall, I'm really happy with the paint, as I usually am with an XM statue. So yeah, it looks really good. Alright, so really quick, I'm just going to go through a few of the features that you get with this statue. So for the most part, what you see is what you get, but you do have a couple alternate head portraits that you can use. And as you can see, I've switched it up here from earlier in the video. This is the skull, or the smoky skull portrait. So inside it's like a mist floating around in there, forming this skull face, and that's really cool feature. And you also get this unmasked portrait. It's actually really nice. It's a nice facial sculpt, really nicely painted. They gave him sort of a 5 o'clock shadow in there. It's actually probably one of the better portraits that human portraits that XM's done, but the only problem I have with this is I don't actually plan to ever use it, because I mean, let's face it, it's Mysterio. I'm going to use one of the domes, but still, really nice unmasked portrait if you like that sort of thing. And of course, earlier in the video you saw just the plain dome. It's just a frosted dome portrait, and really cool. So I'm going to go with one of these two options, probably this for plain dome, but I might switch it up from time to time. So nice switch out head options, and of course with every XM piece you get the art print, and you can see it on the back here. This is actually probably one of the cooler ones. I think the black bolt print is probably still my favorite, and this might be my second favorite. It looks really nice in person, so if you can find a way to display it next to your statue, I think that would look really good. So some nice options that you get, nice features with the statue. Let's move on to production and build quality. Alright, so what XM has been doing on their last few statues is they give you this printout in the box, and it shows you where all the pieces fit back in the box, which is super helpful, because you know, at some point you're gonna have to probably pack this guy back up. We all do at some point, so that's really helpful. But also on this card, they've got sort of a step-by-step assembly process, because this guy is a little bit finicky to put together. I had a little bit of trouble with it, and I'll show you why. Oh, first, before we get into that, I'll just point out, because it kind of freaked me out when I opened it up, there are a few spots where the smoke touches itself, and what they've done is they put these little sort of rubber pads there, and it's a really good idea, sort of to prevent scratching and rubbing between the pieces. And there's one sort of up in here, another spot down here, and there's actually one where the cape, the bottom of the cape kind of touches the base there. And when I first pulled it out of the box, it looks very much like if you've ever had a broken statue, that sort of smooth, like white polystone look to it. So I thought all my smoke was broken. I was kind of had a bit of a mini heart attack, mini meltdown. But then of course I looked closer, and it's supposed to be that way. So fair warning when you pull it out of the box. So anyways, let's talk about the assembly. The card that you get in the box tells you to first put on the 2 trails of smoke. So there's smoke, each one's a separate piece, and they fit into the base right here and right here with a metal peg. So those fit in nice. And then it tells you to put in the body, and there's a metal peg under his right foot that just slots into the base right here. And then it tells you to put on the cape. So the cape, there's 2 spots on the shoulders. The one on the left has a metal rod, and the one on the right has a magnet, and you kind of slot it in there. But as you can see here, the cape kind of wraps under the smoke a little bit, and it actually even touches the smoke just right here. So it's a really tight fit. And I had trouble getting the cape to work around that smoke. As you can see, I did manage, but it was fairly difficult to do. So what some other people have suggested is put the body and the cape on first, and then kind of work the smoke in and around. And to me, that sounds like a really good idea. I think next time I try to assemble this, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try it. So you might want to try that too. You might have more success. But anyways, other than that, the piece feels like your typical XM statue. It feels very heavy, very sturdy. It's a very high quality feel to it. The arms, they fit on with a magnet too. Both arms, and they slot on. It's a nice strong magnet, good solid secure feel to it. And the heads come off as well, and they just slot in there and get held in place with a magnet. So as I said, this really high quality piece. I'm really happy with it. Just be careful with the assembly of the cape. As I said, you might want to try doing it differently than it shows on the card. But other than that, really nice quality piece. The one issue I will point out that seems to be cropping up on a few of these statues has to do with this skull dome portrait. And what's happening there is the dome itself is getting a little too much frosting on it, so it's not quite transparent enough to see the skull. Now on mine, I'm actually pretty happy with mine. I think it's got a good mix of that sort of smoky look to it, but still enough clarity to see the skull nicely. But some people's in photos I have seen, it is quite frosted, so it hides the skull a little bit too much, and that seems to be the only issue I've heard of with this statue to date. So something to keep an eye out for, but otherwise, really nice quality piece. I'm really happy with it. Okay, so just to wrap things up here, I am so pleased with this statue. I can't believe that Mysterio got made into a statue like this. He's one of my absolute favorite villains. I've loved him since I was a kid, and I couldn't be happier with this statue. I think it could be my favorite statue from XM Studios. I'm not saying it's the best, but for me, it's probably one of my favorites. Just top-notch quality. The concept design is excellent. The modernization of the suit, I love how they did that. The dome look, both domed heads, I think are great. Unmasked head, as I said, looks really nice. I don't plan to use it, but it's really nice. I'm just so excited with this statue. I think it turned out just excellent. Top-notch quality again from XM. I think they knocked it out of the park. So hopefully you enjoyed this review. Mysterio from XM Studios. Stay tuned. We should have a couple more reviews hopefully later this year.